anyway, you will appreciate this. So, I go to the Village. Yep. Matt Chandler talked about David's, they called it the King's Table, right? Mm-hmm. So King David had 3 people as a part of his table, right? So he had Joab, who was David's sword, right? That was his general. That was his go-to. He had Jonathan, who he described as the adorer of David's soul, meaning he just was there to support and love David at all times. And then he had Nathan, who essentially called David on his shit. Now I'm gonna try to refrain from cursing a lot in this, but we're starting off strong.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
But and Nathan or Nathaniel was he called David on his shit, right? So you fit any one of those, which is cool in my life. I tend to believe, like, while I know you would shed blood for me in a heartbeat, right. I know you would, but I tend to look at you a lot more in my life, and have done so since in high school, really, of being a lot more of a voice of reason in my life, which has been cool. So you kind of play the role of, hey, you could be Nathaniel, and you can also be Jonathan, because you've always been extremely supportive of me through college, through everything. Like, when I was leaving Coram Deo, you were one of the only people who said, because and I understand, like, a lot of people take it personally when you leave because it's such a small environment, but you were one of the only people who was like, dude, yeah, you need to go, because you can do this. I believe in you, which was cool. Like, it was an honor, and that was something that was awesome. I do wish we could have shared those last 2 years, dude. That would have been fun, sure. Or that last year. But I'm very grateful for you. But
I mean, if you think about it, had you had stayed another year, may not have ended up in Northern Colorado.
No, probably not. Yeah,
would not have met the woman you're about to marry here in a couple months.
Very true.
And we would not be having a bachelor party for you in a couple weeks,
That's
which God intervened.
Oh,
and I will be able to attend.
Let's go! Oh, come on! Yes.
Yeah. So
that makes me so
the training
happy.
that I was supposed to have that weekend got shifted from the 9th to the 11th to the 6th to the 8th.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
that's perfect.
I have to work that Friday morning, but so does everyone else.
I'm so excited. So I've described my dad, and I share this attribute. My mom is what we call a people collector.
Okay.
Right? So she doesn't have a friend group, but she has a group of people that are friends because they're friends with Jennifer, right? Like, that's just how she is. So I'm similar. Like, my only real, like, consistent friend group outside of, like, who I had in football is, like, you, Blake, and Justin. Like, that's just kind of it. Like, my high school, I was friends with a bunch of different people. Like, my last high school, Liberty, and then went to college, and I had so many different teammates, it was hard to maintain one. But what I'm so excited about is all of you getting to meet each other.
Yeah.
Like, you, Blake, Justin already know each other, but then you get to meet Grant Stevens, right, who's giant offensive tackle, Glenn Bernard, Joe Golden's not going to make it, Germ probably isn't going to make it. You would have loved Germ. Germ is something else. Dude, he sounds like Rick Ross a little bit.
Okay.
And he used to be built like him, but he slimmed down a little bit, but he's a big offensive guard. And then Grant Hudgens is going to be there. Jacob Seeley's going to be there. Like, you get to meet all these really cool people. So I'm fired up about it. Like,
I'm excited to get to go.
And it's a good bachelor party. It's not like, your typical strippers.
No,
crap.
No,
like,
I would leave.
That's not our style.
Wouldn't allow it.
I mean, things will probably get weird, though.
That was my favorite part of my bachelor party was the same deal. It was you and Blake from Coram Deo, and then I had a couple of my Pine Cove buddies, college buddies.
Yep.
And everyone came together. It was just like everyone was best friends immediately.
Had a good time.
Which, I mean, I think I had a feeling it would go that way because I feel like I keep pretty good company.
Absolutely.
And if I keep you in my company, I trust you do the same.
Well, I mean, I was going to say present company excluded. You keep good company. But
You're right. Minus you, everyone is a
everybody
really
else is
solid
great.
guy.
You were the wild card. That's why we were a little nervous when you could last minute make it.
Right. I did think about not telling you that I was going to make it and then just showing up like you did to mine.
Dude, see, the funny thing is I told Blake to tell you.
Yeah,
I was like, text him, and he didn't. He was like, he was the architect behind it. He was like, we're going to make this a surprise. But, yeah, and then we ran out of gas on our way back, which was so dumb. I mean, like, you don't understand.
And so this occurred in the year 2022.
Yeah.
There's no reason in 2022 that you should ever run out of gas.
Brother, Blake drove, I don't know what car he was driving. But
he had his Tacoma.
No, it wasn't a Tacoma.
He had the black Tacoma in 2022.
He did, but no, he had just switched because it was. Oh no, he had it in 21 because he had just switched to this like beater that he bought. That was like I don't know if it was a Nissan or a Toyota or something. But like,
he's got the Fusion now. I can't remember.
It was the car right before the Fusion.
Was it another Jetta? because he had a Volkswagen for a while.
Did he? I don't know, but either way, he wasn't bragging about the car, and that's okay, right?
I did like that Tacoma was sweet though.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, 4-cylinder, but it was great.
He made money off that.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was a good buy. But anyway, like he made me so mad because like on the way back, I'm exhausted. Like we just had 3 days of a bachelor party.
Yeah.
And I'm in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
He puts on the JRE, Joe Rogan Experience, with Jordan Peterson, the most soothing voice you can possibly picture.
Right.
And I'm just there like, oh, dude. And he's like, dude, fall asleep. You're good, man. Yeah, take a nap, whatever. I'm like, okay, well, bet. And I was like, well, are we stopping for gas? Like, yeah, we'll stop. I was like, cool. And so I fall asleep, probably like 30, 45 minutes. Plenty of gas stations to stop at, by the way.
Yeah, you mean, I know you know for certain you probably passed a Buc-ee's or...
Yeah, well, no, he wanted to make it
you
to
were going
Buc-ee's,
up
dude.
on... I mean, I get the temptation.
I do too, but I would have rather just like, hey, man, I would have rather just stopped early and then stopped there again rather than,
Well, that's what we might do.
Yeah.
But that obviously isn't what Blake was doing.
No, but I woke up and he's like, hey, man, how was your nap? I was like, dude, I feel great, and he's like, yeah, just a heads up. We've been running on 0 now for like 20 minutes. But Buc-ee's is coming up in like 5 miles. I'm like, all right, well, there's a Chevron and a Valero and a Conoco. Like, I was like, dude, there's 3. Like, please don't do this. And sure enough, I just hear. And he's like, oh, yeah, we just ran out of gas. I was like, oh, come on, man. So we walked. I mean, it wasn't that far, but it was like, it's probably like 3/4 of a mile.
Too far.
Too far for, like you said, 2022. Way too far.
When it tells you how much fuel you have remaining. I know 0 doesn't mean 0.
But it means close.
But if you're at 0, you probably should be in a gas station parking lot.
I was so mad at him. I was so mad. I was like, dude, what? Like, I get the temptation at Buc-ee's, but still, like, there's no need for this.
But of all the people I know, if someone's gonna run out of gas, it would be Blake.
It would be Blake.
It's just his personality. He likes to break rules.
He likes to flirt with that line, man. That's just him. But no, I love him to death. He's great. The cool thing about Blake, and I'll say this because he's probably gonna listen to this. He's probably gonna be a guest here soon. Is you look at him now, and when he's with the boys, you get glimpses of how he was in high school. But like, he is extremely different. Like he met Bella, and they had Jace and Will. I almost always forget his.
Will is correct.
Yep. And then they're about to have another boy.
Yep.
Right. But like he accepted extreme responsibility when his kids came into his life, and it was really cool.
Yeah. No, it was cool to see for sure.
I was proud of him. How has being married changed you, brother? I mean, I've seen it, but I want to hear give me some advice going into the tempest here. What should I expect, and what kind of advice, and how has it changed you thus far?
So
because you're coming up on 2 years or 3 years.
Just had 2. Two back. Right. It was 2 back in March.
I literally just said 2022. I don't know why.
And so I
didn't do the math.
Yeah, a little over 2 now. So my most natural tendency is to choose to be selfish. Just like every other person on earth.
Yeah.
So I'm not special in that regard.
You're alone on that, man.
Yeah, that's actually
me.
On me. Brooks is well. If there's anybody that actually doesn't have a selfish bone in their body, it might be you.
I am very selfish. I'm learning. I'm a lot more selfish than I thought.
So leading up to getting married, not necessarily after we got engaged, but prior to being engaged, when it was like, all right, this is like if this is gonna happen soon, if it's gonna happen. Otherwise, I gotta, shit or get off the pot type situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I was just kind of spending a lot of time in prayer, a lot of self-reflection. And one of the cool things God likes to do is he likes to open our eyes to our own shortcomings, which is super gracious of him, but it's not always fun.
No, it's hard to look in a mirror, man.
And so it was becoming very clear to me that I was just selfish in a lot of regards. So there's a lot of questioning going on.
Yeah.
I was like, do I really want to get married? Why? Is this the right girl?
Sure.
All sorts of stuff like that. And I realized that the root of it was selfish, being selfish. And I hadn't thought about it in a while. I'm trying to collect my thoughts and talk at the same time.
No, you're good, man. It's tough. I think that's somebody described marriage to me as it's almost like the most brutally honest mirror you can look at, because you're going to look at, I like to write, sometimes channel my thoughts and stuff. And I was writing something the other day and talked about how difficult of a canvas a mirror must be to sculpt, right? Because, and that sounds super pretentious when I say it out loud, but like, well, thanks, man. But like saying it out loud, I feel like a bit of a tool. But like, if you're working on yourself, there's some quote by a philosopher that basically said, a man is the most difficult thing to sculpt because he is both marble and sculptor, right? Is the most painful experience for him. And I think marriage just puts a magnifying glass or a microscope on all of your flaws. And even in engagement, I'm figuring that out. Like Hope and I have had a rocky engagement, not necessarily because of anything we're doing wrong. I mean, we're figuring out.
Easier when you're
long distance
2 hours by air away.
That part's tough, and that's kind of what's bubbled it to the surface. Like it's funny. My sister, when she got married, their first year was rough, right?
Yeah.
And they'll say it. Like I'm not airing out dirty laundry. They just first year of marriage is usually pretty tough.
Big learning curve.
Yeah, is that good?
Haven't tried yet.
I'll give it a shot, man. I'm a fan. But anyway, it's like no stone goes unturned that first year. Like you learn what you can handle, what you can't handle, what bothers the crap out of you about a person.
And it's going to be little things.
Yeah.
Like the way where they leave their toothpaste. Or that they leave every cabinet that they ever open.
Oh boy.
Open. I'm not speaking from experience. Honey, I love you.
Yeah. Bailey,
but she knows this, and I call her on it all the time, and it doesn't change. So you have to accept people and love them despite their painful shortcomings. And you just have to remember that you also have many, many painful shortcomings.
100%. I think I have probably more than she's bringing to the table, but ours are different. Like, I don't get bothered by, I don't know, like, she's a clean freak, right? So I don't get bothered by anything she's doing. Like, she's not leaving stuff out or anything like that. It's great. It's great on my end, but on her end, it's not as great because she also is extremely OCD.
So you're not going to meet her standards. You might be like, this is clean, this is as good as I can do.
She
but
would
then
think
she's
this apartment's a wreck right now, and I'm like,
this angle is off. And I get it.
I can't use. There are different cleaners I have to use for different surfaces. Like,
yeah, you'll learn a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, she's like, you're gonna clean the wood with a Clorox wipe. And I was like,
Why not?
I was planning on that. Yeah,
you would have done a great job.
I was like, really, like 99.9% of all germs, are not getting cleaned by the Clorox wipe.
It's probably gonna do all right.
Yeah, a conversation we have had to have, and I love you, honey. If you are listening to this, which I don't think she's gonna listen to all these, they've been like 2 hours long, and it's been fun. But
yeah, I've enjoyed listening.
Well, thank you. But anyway, like one of the conversations we did have to have that was a bit of a come to Jesus moment was like, look, I acknowledge that your way is most likely the best way to do things. That doesn't make my way wrong. And, there are things that I don't need to be corrected on all the time. Like if I did it this way, I respect that you want me to maybe do it another way. But, at the same time, there's 9 different ways to skin a cat.
Right.
She's heard me say that so many times.
It just comes to accepting.
Oh, yeah.
Accepting the way the other person does it. Acknowledging that your way is not necessarily right.
Yeah.
And their way is not necessarily wrong. It's just different. Yeah. I mean, so much of that comes from how you were raised.
Oh, yeah.
Your parents raised you to clean in such a way. You watched your parents clean in such a way. Yeah. And so that's just what you do.
Absolutely.
Or you saw your parents do something a certain way, and you're like, I'm going to do the complete opposite of that because that was stupid.
Yeah, I didn't like how they did that. Yeah.
And then she had the same experience.
100%. Yeah.
And it's just part of 2 very different sinful people trying to come together and form a union.
Yep.
And inevitably would not work. Just the 2 of you, right?
No doubt. Yeah.
Because it has to be you looking at God first, her looking at God first, and then looking at each other. Because if you look to her and she's looking up, she's going to let you down.
Yeah.
If you're looking up and she's looking at you, you're going to let her down.
Yeah. We make bad gods.
Oh, yeah.
We make real bad gods.
I would suck to worship.
Yeah. No doubt. Me too, brother. That was something, again, Matt Chandler, it was a guest pastor, I don't remember who, but he's from Nashville, a couple weeks ago. I was listening to a sermon, and I had something come up to me. I'm big into weightlifting and all that. Like, it's just a passion of mine, self-improvement, right? But something I realized was spiritually, I have been really malnourished, right? Like, I have not been taking my spiritual diet seriously, my spiritual exercise seriously. I've been coasting, a lot of which I can attribute to being stressed out, but a lot of it too is like, look, I bet a lot of the stress would go away if I prioritize this. So I've been trying to spend a lot more time in the gospel, because he said something to me that really hit me, struck a chord with me, which was, we can't get to the point where we're bored by the gospel. You know, I don't know about you, but I'll get on TikTok, and sometimes people are out there that are like, look, I don't think that you're using Jesus as or this platform for Jesus. I think you're using Jesus as a platform to gain following more than anything else. But there is a lot of that. There's a ton of that. Like the Joel Osteens of the world, and now that the social media pastor is a big deal, like there's a lot of it. But I'm guilty of anytime I'm seeing stuff about Jesus or anything like that, like I've been guilty of like, I'm just gonna move on, like, you know, and not really like out of malice or anything, or like I don't want to hear about it, but it's like, well, you know, I'm a little bored of it.
A lot of the stuff if you're scrolling on TikTok, a lot of the biblical Jesus things you're seeing aren't necessarily biblically true.
No, you're right.
It's a lot of feel good, a lot of fluff.
Very true. Like nobody really likes to hit hard on, hey, it's hard being a Christian.
No, I mean, people want to talk about Jesus loves you and he's forgiven you and it's all good and dandy. Well, that is 100% factual, biblical truth.
Yeah.
That alone doesn't make it okay for us to live lives that are not modeled after Jesus and glorifying to God.
No. Yeah, I agree. Actually, that was
and that's the part that gets left out, because it's so much easier to say, Jesus loves me, I'm forgiven, he died for my sins, rose again.
Yeah.
Now I just get to use it as a get out of jail free card for my entire life.
And we kind of treat him a lot like a butler almost, or like a genie in a bottle. You know, it's like,
call him when you need him.
Exactly. And here's what I want. Chop chop. You know, why aren't you giving this to me? And I'm guilty of not treating it more like a relationship. Like if Jesus was, I almost said real. Didn't mean that.
I know.
But if Jesus was like, if I had a phone number for Jesus, right, and he was like
a physical person,
physical person,
I
could
sit across
talk to,
and touch and see and feel and all that stuff.
Exactly.
I understand what you're saying.
He would, if I'm being honest, with like just taking a deep look at myself. Lately, I've been a little better, but you know, up until the last probably month, he probably would have been a lot closer to like an estranged family member or something, rather than an actual, like, this is somebody I'm making an effort to see and talk to and call and be a part of their life because I want them to be a part of mine.
Right.
You know, and it's sobering, and it's something that, you know, I at the same time, like, it sounds weird, but it's also relieving, because it's like, no wonder I've been stressed out. No wonder everything's hurting me and like everything's terrifying to me right now. I have not had a intimate, deep relationship with my Creator and my Savior. It should be out of whack, you know, and it made me feel a lot better, because it's kind of like whenever you realize you finally admit to yourself you have a problem, and you can start taking the steps to fix the problem.
It is the first step to recovery, is admitting you have a problem.
Exactly, and that's been me.
That's cool. I'm glad that God opened your eyes to your shortcomings and prompted you to turn back to him. Yeah. Because it's not, people like to say God's turned away from me and turned his back at me. No, it's never God.
No,
it's always me.
Yeah.
I've gotten distracted by all the different physical things in the world that I think will satisfy my soul. Yeah. And I chase after them, and then, well, ultimately they never do.
Yeah. No,
and then it's God prodding you and opening your eyes and saying, "Hey, I'm still here. You just have to turn back around and look at me."
Yeah, absolutely. I have not yet done an intro for you, so I'm going to give you a very brief one right now. Sitting across from me, the very handsome Justin Henderson.
That's a stretch.
No, it's not a stretch at all. Not a stretch at all. Justin Henderson, one of my dear friends. He and I had a relationship essentially since middle school primarily. I mean, we knew each other before that, but middle school was when we got close. And
I think probably maybe when I was in 7th or 8th grade, you were in 6th, 7th grade, somewhere in middle school. I can't remember exactly when.
Yeah, we became close friends. I know, well, probably not close friends. I know I was annoying when in 7th grade, and you were an 8th grader.
I mean, I was in 8th grade. I had it all figured out. I had no time for weird 7th graders.
No, but
absolutely none.
I can honestly say one of my closest friends, one of my favorite people. He was an exceptional athlete, and I think you could have gone and played college football or baseball or both at a fairly high level. Additionally, Texas Tech grad, I forgot your major.
Accounting.
Accounting. Yeah, you're a warrior. Because you don't use that degree.
Not a bit.
You are now Mr. Big Shot Pilot.
Yes.
For a company we will not disclose. We want to be appropriate.
Yeah, I fly for an airline based in the United States.
There you go, buddy. No, that's cool though, man. You have a really cool career, by the way. I mean, you send me, or I see on Instagram your stories you'll do of you taking off and stuff like that.
There's no photo evidence of takeoffs or landings.
Okay, gotcha.
Or in flight at any time.
You'll do no such thing of that. I must have been thinking of my other pilot friend who.
That was probably when I was in the back and took a picture from the side of the plane.
Yeah, for sure. But no, I would like to talk about it. I'm going to hit on a lot of those notes too, because additionally, camp counselor.
Worked at Pine Cove for 3 summers.
Mm-hmm, and also just a very strong believer and good example of what a Christian man should be. So honored to have you as a part of my life, honored to have you on this, and looking forward for hopefully some people are going to get, 5 people will probably listen to this, Justin.
Hey, if one person listens to it and hears some truth, then praise God.
Praise God. Amen. That's kind of what's been the theme of look, is this going to be big? Probably not. But the goal of this is, number one, I want to look back on this podcast, little project that I'm doing, and I shared really fun moments and stories with good people. And it was recorded, and hopefully somebody listens to it, gets something out of it. I'd been doing up until this point, Grant was the first one. Yep. Then I had 2 of my teammates back to back. Now I have you, and it's all different walks of life in which we've, had connections and memories. And it's cool because we've shared different experiences, right? Like you graduated college, I got to be there, and then you went and got started in your professional life while I'm figuring out still football, right? So you're ahead a lot right now in life experience because you figured out how the world works, right?
That's a stretch. I would not say I figured out how the world works. I've definitely stumbled my way to where I'm at. We all have,
man. We all have. But it's just, I don't know. I find a lot of value in the people I've been a part, that have been a part of my life and I'm friends with, and you are by no means exempt of that. I value our friendship a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, I do too.
So I would like to talk about some of those early days of.
Let me backtrack to the introduction. You called me an exceptional athlete.
I think you were an exceptional.
I think
athlete.
I was very mediocre.
Nah,
I think I was about as good as, I don't want to say as good as a 5'10", 180-pound white guy could be, because I know there's a whole lot better out there. So I was, given the gene pool I came from, I think I reached my peak.
Well, here's my thing. You were somebody who always rose to the occasion of the competition around you. So I have every reason to believe that if you had gone to, and no disrespect to Coram Deo, by the way, I will say the education I got at Coram Deo, some of the friends I met, second to none, right? But athletically, maybe left a little to be desired.
It wasn't their focus, and that's
and that's cool. That's totally fine. That was something that was really important to me, which is why I ended up leaving. Yeah. But you were somebody who, it seemed to me, always rose to the competition. Our toughest teams we played usually were your best games. So that's the only reason. Look, at the end of the day, your judgment call. But if I'm calling it, I think that you were somebody who was a really good athlete in a fairly different system that ultimately wasn't conducive to your best athletic career, but it worked for you and it was what you wanted to do and you wanted to stick it out there, and that's nothing wrong with that. But you were really good linebacker, really good running back, and better baseball player. So, and you had talks, right? You were talking to Tarleton, right? Or was it Steve?
A little bit.
Yeah. So there were opportunities even at a lower competition school. I have every reason to believe if you had gone to, like you had discussed, like a Fort Worth Christian, a Liberty, or even stuck it out all 4 years at Marcus or something, or played all 4 years at Marcus, I wouldn't have played
football anywhere else though.
Yeah, I think you would have.
Yeah, definitely not at Marcus. I didn't like it that much.
I don't blame you.
But you are former Division I athlete yourself. I'll consider you a subject matter expert.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'll take the compliment and we'll leave it at that. We can move on.
Okay, fair enough. I do have some questions in here, just some really basic touch points I want to hit on.
Okay.
Like a lot of the things that have made you who you are, and these are just topics I want to talk about. So you have the sports background, you have your college experiences, you have the Pine Cove counselor experience. So do want to go back to athletics really quick.
Sure.
We started sharing the field when I was in 7th grade. You were in 8th grade.
Yep.
Do you have a favorite memory from any of the time, right? Because we shared the field from then up until, I want to say, my sophomore year of high school. with the exception of you didn't play your freshman year.
Correct.
Right.
But you were in 8th grade, so we wouldn't have played
True,
together
we wouldn't have
anyways.
played together either way. Do you have a favorite memory between the two of us playing football together?
So this isn't necessarily a favorite memory because I don't remember anything from it, but there's a picture of our 8th grade football team when we were on defense.
Yes.
And I was playing outside linebacker, and you were down at 120 pounds soaking wet playing D end.
I was 100 pounds. I wasn't even 120.
Well, I said soaking wet.
Yeah,
Wet.
that's fair.
That picture always makes me laugh.
Me too.
But I think my favorite football memory was against Grapevine Faith my junior year. I was playing middle linebacker, and that slot receiver came across the middle. And it was the best tackle of my life.
My favorite memory too, bro.
It was the best. He's the only good tackle I had. Let's be honest.
No, dude, you were a bruiser,
And
man.
I kind of laid that kid out.
Yes, you did.
And
Oh
you,
my
you were the
God.
first one over there.
You got him
You got
midair.
hyped up. Oh, it was so fun.
Dude, actually, that was the memory I was going to share too, which is funny. Because in the funniest part, like, I don't know if you know this, I shadowed Grapevine Faith to go. And I met that kid. Because that was the same kid that Brett Lewis just suplexed onto his head
That kid was
at the end.
injury prone.
Yeah. And that kid, first of all, he's a moron. Like, can confirm, talk to the kid. That kid
I
was.
think he's CTE waiting to happen.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the guy. He has a lot of head injuries.
Yeah, I mean, he's on the spectrum. I don't know if he started on the spectrum, but like after that game, he was there, you know? So I don't, look, I'm not trying to get canceled or anything, but that was
I
the
think
case.
you just got yourself canceled.
It'll be fine. Nobody's going to listen to this. But no, I met the kid.
My wife will probably cancel you for saying that.
Will she? I'm sorry, Bailey.
You'd be all right now.
Don't listen to this thing. No, but I met him, and he was like, yeah, that was the worst game I've ever had in my life. Like,
it.
yeah,
Poor
he just
guy
got
got lit up.
smoked.
It was unfortunate.
Yeah. My favorite memory, actually, my second favorite memory was 7th grade. I don't remember who it was. I think it was Temple Christian, where they had that, like,
300-pound quarterback.
300-pound QB.
I remember that.
And I went, like, first of all, that game hurt so bad because I hadn't quite understood the concept yet of a pulling guard. And because nobody pulls guards in middle school, right? Like, that just was kind of a rarity.
Yeah.
And I just came through. I'm like, oh, they're not blocking me. Boom!
Wide open.
I got lit up a few times, and but I got a hold of this guy's like big meaty bear paw and like just climbed my way up and sacked him. And you were like, "Let's go, bro!" Dude's like 3 times my size. But no,
That's funny.
yeah.
That's a fun memory.
Oh, dude, they were. Yeah,
I'm glad. I actually don't remember that.
No, I remember it. You were pumped. I was like, yeah, Justin. Like, and it was still like when 8th graders were so much cooler than 7th graders, you know? So I was like, yeah, Justin thought I did good.
Yeah.
He thought I did a good job. So
That's
I was
funny.
I
I
was
wish I did
fired up.
remember that. I believe it happened.
Yeah. The other favorite one I had, because I had 3, was when we ran the Oklahoma drill. And it was you, me. I don't know why we ran it this way, but it was like there wasn't even a linebacker. I didn't have a linebacker. It was you at running back, Blake Beaverstock at offensive line, and then me going against him. So like I didn't even have back support, and I just had
tough.
to like shed it. But I shed it, and I got you, and you were like, "Hey, that was a good hit, man." Yeah, you know. But because I mean, you got to cling to what you can get because we didn't win a lot of games.
No, there was a whole lot of losing.
Yeah, like to this day, Rosa's Cafe to me tastes like defeat. Like
I thought it tasted pretty good.
it did taste good, but like it was a comforting food in a difficult
comfort
time.
food.
But
Yeah,
nowadays, when I go eat it, I just can't get the taste of like losing out of my
funny.
mouth.
That's funny, guys.
We always win after it. Every game, man. We went there, and I was like, God, this is just starting to.
We're not even celebrating. We're not celebrating anything. We're not.
Yeah. Can I just go home?
We're not
Like,
mourning anything. It doesn't seem like anybody actually cares.
Nobody cared, dude.
I didn't care.
I cared. I was so mad when we lost. I hate losing more than I like winning, which is kind of funny given the university I attended.
Sure.
Because we won a total of 10 games my entire time there, not including the year I redshirted. But
Well,
like,
it was fortunate that Cormdale really prepared you for that.
they did, and you know it was funny, blue and gold both times. They just were ready to go.
Learning how to be a gracious loser is a very important life skill to have.
I agree, and having dignity in defeat. You know, but there were some games, and this translates to college too, where that just wasn't on the table. Like, there's no.
Well, I mean, in
dignity.
college, it's a lot different. You got coaches that are paid a lot of money. Not a lot of money. They're being paid.
Not in my place, but everybody else. Yeah.
They're getting paid money, and that's their career. Their job's on the line every game. So it's not like, oh, we lost. Sorry, guys. We'll try again next week. And
Yeah.
it's like,
all right, cool. Well, we're probably getting fired.
it's like, so you guys might have new coaches starting on Monday, so
Yep.
thanks for absolutely nothing.
And that happened with me. That did happen with me. I had 13 different position coaches.
It's insane.
Yeah, dude, it was rough. Because I moved around. I came in as a Mike,
Right.
because my last year of high school, they were like, hey, we're moving you to Mike, which I was like, cool, never been in space before ever, but let's do it.
Yeah.
And it was good. But came in as a Mike, moved down to DN, then outside linebacker, and then came in as a Mike, moved down to DN, defensive coordinator change, moved to outside linebacker, 2 years, defensive coordinator change, and then DN, D tackle, nose. And I had different position coaches for every year. And
It makes it tough
sometimes two per year.
to feel comfortable.
Yeah, and the difficult part too is like, and I don't attribute this, like I'm not going to tell you that this is the reason I didn't go any further than I did by any means, but like it made it difficult to be exceptionally good at one thing.
Sure.
It was great because I got to be a jack of all trades. Like I started one game at every position in the front seven, which was awesome.
Sorry to interrupt,
You're good.
but I know no one can see it, but I did have to just go find the picture.
Dude, send me that, please. That's awesome. I don't even have the right foot back. That's terrible.
Well, I don't think you have a foot back.
I may not, dude. I just have both. I'm just squatting.
That is too funny.
100 pounds of just ginger fury, man.
You can see the big. I mean, he probably was only like 5'8", 215.
Yeah,
But
that's-
in our minds when we were
that's
in
giant,
eighth grade,
though,
we're like,
for
this
an
guy's
eighth
like 6
grader.
foot, 300 pounds.
Yeah, it's just huge. That's hilarious. I might have to put that as the thumbnail, man. That'd be hilarious.
I'm sending it to you now.
Yeah, but no, so it was hard to be exceptionally good at one thing. On the flip side of the coin, it was cool to say I got to play
Yeah.
at so many different positions. But yeah, it wasn't the easiest thing. But like you said, like everything did happen for a reason. It was great.
Right.
You know? I'd like to go to your college experience a little bit. So you went into accounting, but as long as I've known you, or not as long as I've known you, but for the significant run of our adult friendship, right? You kind of had in your head you were going to be a pilot. So walk me through how you got to that point.
It's kind of an interesting story, I guess.
Hit me.
Preface with many adult men that I talk to. They're like, oh, what do you do for a job? Oh, I'm an airline pilot. Like, oh man, being an airline pilot was my dream job growing up.
Yeah.
It wasn't my dream job growing up.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up.
Me
All
neither.
I know is I like to have fun. And
That's a good-
unfortunately, it costs money to have fun.
It
So a
does.
job was a means to the end. So I was always interested in aviation. I was fortunate enough to do a lot of travel growing up. I got to fly on a lot of planes growing up. I always thought it was super cool. Wanted to understand it, wanted to know what was going on up front. And as I was starting to get toward the end of high school, I was like, I probably should figure out what I actually want to do with my life.
Yeah.
Which is so unfortunate that we make 18-year-olds
100%,
try to pick what they want to do for the rest of their life.
I had no clue. I still don't have a clue. I'm figuring it out, but I still don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's trial and error. So my junior year of high school is kind of when I started entertaining the idea of being a pilot. Because I didn't know any pilots at the time, but it just seemed like a cool job.
Absolutely.
So I started looking into it a little bit, and there was a school fair that came to Corumdale, and a bunch of schools came, and LeTourneau University was one of them. And they've got a really strong aviation program.
I actually do know that program.
They're out in Longview, east of town.
Yeah.
And so I met with them, and I was starting to think, like, maybe I actually do want to do this.
Yeah.
And at the same time, another one of my friend's dads was like, you should go to the Naval Academy and
That's
try to
one
get a
path.
flight slot.
Yeah.
He's like, I can get you a rec letter from George W. Bush.
Hey, man, that's
So that'd have been pretty cool.
that's a strong rec letter.
But I was about halfway through my junior year at the time when this started being a thought, and I quickly learned that I was months too late.
Yeah.
And so that went away fast.
Being in that academy, man, it's hard.
Oh yeah,
It's hard.
I'm
I'm not saying you couldn't do
hats off to the people that do it. I'm grateful I did not.
it. Yeah.
And so that obviously went away quick. And then I met with LeTourneau, talked to him, talked about the aviation program. And they did a really bad job of selling the job prospects after graduation.
Okay.
Right? So you get your pilot certificates. You got a whole process to work through, all I guess I can walk through that now.
Yeah, go for it.
So you start off by getting a private pilot certificate. You have to have at least 40 hours of flight time logged. And there's a whole breakdown of what's solo and cross country at night and
That didn't sound
stuff
too
like
bad.
that.
40 hours?
40 hours, but most people don't do it in 40. If you do it in 40, hats off to you. You worked hard. And then, so you get your private pilot's license and you go on to get your instrument rating, which allows you to fly by reference to your instruments only in the airplane. So private pilot's license, you're looking outside using land points as navigation, basically. Now we've got GPS, stuff like that, so it's not so much of a stressor.
Sure.
The instrument, you fly by reference to instruments only, so you're in the clouds the whole time.
Yeah.
Or you wear foggles, which are these glasses you put on that are blurred out from like here and here, and there's just one small clear spot down at the bottom where you look down at your instruments the whole time. Forces you to stay inside.
Oh.
It's a little uncomfortable, but you get used to it.
Yeah.
And then after your instrument rating, typically you move on to your commercial single engine. The commercial certificate will supersede the private certificate, so you can now get paid to fly. Yeah. No one is going to hire a pilot with 250 flight hours and a commercial single engine pilot certificate.
Sure.
Because you have no experience for
grossly
one.
underqualified right now.
Yeah, grossly underqualified. You have no flight time, and anybody with money that's going to hire a pilot probably doesn't want to fly a single engine piston aircraft. Yeah. Yep. After commercial single engine, I got my certified flight instructor certificate, and then I got my instrument instructor add-on to that. And then I went and did my commercial multi-engine training. So then I was able to fly multi-engine planes for hire. Yeah. And then after that, I got my multi-engine instructor certificate. Okay. Keep in mind, I started my flight training January of 2020, which in January 2020, it was a phenomenal time to start training because there was going to be a lot of turnover in the industry because a lot of people were going to retire. And there's gonna be a lot of hiring. Yeah. And then just 2 months later, something
all hell broke
a little pandemic, a little COVID-19,
which wasn't really a big deal.
I mean, shut the whole world down.
I only missed
a while.
Dude, it aged me. I think I came out of COVID looking like 5 years old.
I think everyone felt the same way. It was weird. A weird time. Yeah. And so I finished. I kept flying all the way through COVID because whoever was in charge of deciding who essential workers were decided that flight students were essential workers.
Good. Hey, that's a great opportunity.
And so I was able. I was living in Flower Mound, driving to Arlington at the time. Yeah. So a pretty big hike and taking 360 the whole way. Yeah. With bad traffic. Yeah. But with COVID, no matter what time of day it was, there was no traffic, so I didn't mind. Yeah. I just stayed flying the whole time through, and I finished all my flight training in February 4th of 2022. Yep. 2021, excuse me. That's quick. So it took me 13 months, roughly, to go from never touching a plane to being commercial multi-engine pilot, multi-engine instructor. That's incredible. That's woefully inexperienced.
Yeah, that's fair.
Again, and you will not find a job with those credentials. Yeah. There's no experience. Yeah. There's so many people out there with way more, and that's expected. So the route that I took after finishing was I was going to be a flight instructor. And I was going to instruct at the school that I went to. But unfortunately, because of COVID, nobody was hiring. No airlines were hiring, so no CFIs that hit their hours were leaving. Right. So you had a year and a half worth of CFIs that hadn't gotten hired on at airlines. So flight schools weren't bringing on new CFIs. Yeah. Because they didn't have enough students to accommodate everyone. So they're like, we're not going to.
Supply and demand.
Right. Yeah. There's no supply, so there's no demand. And it was an interesting time. So I spent the next 9 months working as an accountant for a commercial real estate firm. And I hated
not a bad job.
I hated every day of it.
I don't blame you, but not in the grand scheme of things. Usually accounting jobs pay well and take care of business for a little bit.
Yeah, no, it was fine.
But no, I don't blame you.
It made ends meet, but every day I went into the office, it was, I wish I was flying.
Yeah.
Wish I was
flying. Oh, yeah. Especially when you already have, it'd be one thing if you were like, I have the ambition to become a pilot, but you already were a pilot. You weren't a commercial airline pilot yet, right, but you'd already seen the sky. It's like,
yeah, no, I had tasted flight and I wanted more.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
And so that was tough. It was really tough, but it was fortunate. One of my close friends worked in a different department at the same company. Sure. And so he helped me get the interview, and I ended up getting hired and brought on. And phenomenal company. Yeah. Great people, great culture. Not interesting work. Maybe other stuff in the business was interesting, but the accounting was not interesting.
No, I don't blame you. Yeah.
but the type of place that if I, for whatever reason, had to stop flying, I'd return to in a heartbeat just because the people were that good.
Sure. And I mean, and you're the type of person too, like, correct me if I'm wrong, I think your personality, because you have a really good personality and very personable. Like, I mean, you're soft-spoken and a little more reserved, depending on the time and crowd.
Sure.
But I mean, I think you're wasted behind a screen. You know, like, I think, no disrespect, I mean, I think you're wasted behind a screen. I think you bring a lot more value to personal or like relations. You know?
Yeah, and it was super cool of the company too, because I mean, when I interviewed, I was like, look, this is my situation. The second I get a call to go fly, I'm gone. Yeah, like, plain and simple.
Good on you for owning that too.
And they were super accommodating. Like, yeah, we know it's temporary. We'll take you as long as we'll have you, and that'd be good. So I did that for 9 months. It was not fun, but my saving grace was my close buddy that also worked there, and so every lunch break we'd go out, and it was right on a pond by there was like an office complex over in Frisco that had a pond in the middle of all these buildings. Yeah. We just go out there and take a couple laps at lunch every day, just reset our minds, get some fresh air, have a good conversation. And so eventually I did get the call to go fly November of 2021. My flight school called me back to work as an instructor. So I started doing that full time end of November 2021 and flew my butt off for, I want to call it, so it was November to April. It was like a year and 3 months, year and 4 months, something like that. Yeah, year and 4 months, 16 months total.
Yeah, and you and Bailey were doing distance at this point, right?
No, at that point she had already moved back to Fort Worth.
She? Okay, all right, disregard. Yeah.
She may have done one more semester in College Station, I can't remember.
Yeah. But for those 9 months where you were an accountant, was she there too?
So she was in school in 2020 when everything shut down.
Right.
And then I guess she did do one more semester in College Station fall of 2020.
Okay, so it wasn't that bad.
I think.
Yeah.
And then she did a I can't remember.
It's all good.
It was a while ago.
It was, dude.
But
and during COVID,
we were long distance for some of it between Lubbock and College Station, or Dallas and College Station. And then for a couple of times she was in Fort Worth and I was up in Flower Mound, so it was not long distance then.
I was just wondering if that kind of compounded the, like, you know, at any point.
Well, by then we were so good at long distance.
Yeah.
So it was just life.
Yeah. I'm still not good at long distance. I've been doing it for a year and a half, and I'm still not there.
I'll get back to that, but I think long distance is a great way to date.
We'll
explain on that later.
Yeah, I interrupted. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So I flight instructed, did a ton of flying, went from 270 flight hours to about 1,500 in 16 months. Wow. Good God. So I was busy, and I worked hard, and it was miserable. Because you're shoulder to shoulder with another grown human in a really small plane with no AC.
Ooh. So you're not practicing in like a commercial.
No, we are in single engine piston aircraft.
That's right. Okay, that's
Cessna 172s, Piper Archers, Piper Seminoles. That was the multi-engine that I taught in for a while too.
Gotcha.
And it gets hot.
Bet it does.
So fortunately I only had to do one full Texas summer of flight instruction. Yeah. And I would come home at the end of, because I mean I was flying 8 hours a day when the weather permitted. Yeah. But I was at the flight school for 12, 14, 16 hours a day sometimes. Because, I mean, you show up, you got to do a pre-brief that takes half an hour or so. And then you got to do a post-brief that takes a half hour or so. Then you probably got an hour, 30 minutes of idle time before your next flight. And then same thing happens for every flight. So it was long days. Yeah. And, I mean, I would drink a full big hydro flask of water before every flight. And I'd get back from every flight, and I wouldn't even have to pee. I just sweat it all out.
Yeah, just burned it all.
And I get home at the end of every day and just have throbbing headaches and just miserable. Yeah. I mean, I found some workarounds for it, some liquid IVs and stuff like that. And you make it work, but it was miserable. No way around it. And so I fortunately did end up hitting my time in beginning of 2023, April 2023. And the airlines were hiring like crazy. Yep. And so I was able to go from hitting my time to starting training in 3 weeks. Yeah. Fantastic. Which I was super grateful for, because I'd seen guys wait year and a half. Even people now that are hitting their time, they're having to wait a while just because of the nature of the industry. It's just weird. Yeah, it is. Stuff's happening right now.
It's an interesting time.
Hiring slowing down a lot. Yep. I got brought on my airline. Training took... my first day of training was May the 4th of 2023. I completed training...
It was that recent? I had in my head you'd been. So have you been? How long have you been at? You're just over a year.
Yeah, a little over a year.
Oh, wow. I don't know why I had in my head you started like shortly after you were married.
No, I flight instructed for a full year after we got married.
Okay. Sorry, I keep interrupting.
No,
I'm
you're
going to do
good.
my best not to do
No,
that.
no. Clarification is not a problem.
Yeah.
So middle of July, I finished my schoolhouse training.
Mm-hmm.
So that's ground school plus simulators.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of July, I passed my check rides. I received an airline transport pilot certificate,
Fantastic.
which is like a PhD of pilot certificates. Don't get me wrong, I'm still woefully inexperienced. I know what I'm doing.
Paper.
I do my job well. But in terms of aviation, I am a baby.
Sure.
I've got almost, I got about 2,000 hours of flight time now.
Yeah, but there are people who have been doing this for years. Because most pilots I've met are, or at least when I say I've met, when I'm flying, with a Southwest or somebody like that, like most of the pilots I see are significantly older than you are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just also the company that you're with. So if you're with a big legacy carrier like an American, a United, or a Delta, it's going to be older people flying just because it takes time to get there.
Yeah, that's fair.
But, I mean, you're talking people have 20, 25, 30,000 plus flight hours, just insane numbers. And they've seen, so like we may be equally qualified, but they've seen so much more and they've done so much more. They've been able to learn and experience.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the biggest thing is now I've got the paper. It says I can do it. Now
For
it's just a
sure.
matter of experiencing and learning.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Like it to me, it strikes me because I try to equate everything to what I understand. One of the things I understand is football, so I kind of equate it to like the 5-star out of high school versus the guy with 2 years college experience,
Sure.
right? Which 2 years doesn't sound like a lot, but in college it's a lot because you're that's half.
It's a different game.
Exactly, it's completely different. But that makes sense to me, and that's like I can't believe you did it so quickly. Number one, that's very impressive.
It's been a whirlwind of I guess 4 years now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade it for anything though.
Yeah. So what was, both as a trainee and a flight instructor, what were, if you have anything that comes to mind, like what were the best and worst experiences from both?
So
And when I say worst experience, I don't mean like, oh, it was hot or anything, but like,
Yeah.
I mean like a really bad student or something like that.
I'm not gonna throw shade at it.
Well, you don't have to say names. I just want to know like how many people were you like, we may not come land amicably on this one.
Do you want to know the honest answer?
Yes.
Too many to count.
Please, well, give me some stories.
No,
man.
I'm not gonna. Cause I kid. They all blend together.
Yeah, that's fair. I got you.
But when it came down to flight instructing, I was never trusting the student. I was always trusting myself to get
Yeah.
us out of any situation that the student put us into.
That's fair.
So there was never really a time when I was truly afraid of what a student was doing because I saw it before they realized what they were doing.
And you were in a lot more control than I'm probably thinking.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
because
over here thinking like
it's not a
viewing it
car.
like-
It's not a
well,
car.
yeah, that's what I'm viewing it as. Like you got the instruments here, and like when you're in driver's ed, you just got the chicken brake on
No,
the
it's nothing
passenger
like that,
side
'cause
that the
we've got-
instructor hits you with.
You got the yoke on the left seat side. You got the yoke on the right seat side.
Yeah.
When one moves, the other moves.
Okay.
And then you've got the throttle quadrant in the middle. So you've got your throttle and your mixture, which controls your fuel-to-air ratio.
Yeah.
And you got instrumentation on both sides.
Yeah.
And I was flying really, really nice planes.
Yeah.
So it was glass cockpit. So everything was digital.
Right.
Super nice. If I wanted the flight instruments on my side, I'd just press a button and they would revert to my side.
Oh, that's cool.
But I mean, it's also like me to my water bottle right here.
Right.
Like I can easily look over and see what's going on over there. So it's
Yeah.
not a big deal. But it was, that's the interesting part about instructing is as you gain more experience, you're able to learn what mistakes are acceptable and how far you can let them go before you intervene. Because if you intervene every time your student makes a small error, they're not going to learn.
Yeah.
So you got to let them.
You got to get your scars and bruises.
Right. You got to let them make mistakes, figure out what they did wrong, you fix it,
For sure.
and then talk about it.
Yeah. Something I'm realizing now, which is kind of funny, because like you've always been a pretty calm, cool, collected person, but like I noticed a lot, like, and now that I'm connecting the dots, it makes a lot more sense. Around the time you started to become a pilot, right, and went through, like, was undergoing that process, your reactions to stuff became so much more mild. And the reason I get it now is, like, you were dealing with, I would say it's a fairly high stress environment.
No, it is.
Yeah,
It is
and
a
like
high-stress
even to this day, because it's a high risk, high reward. Well, it's just you're dealing with souls, right? Like even when the air traffic control is saying, hey, like 180 souls on board or whatever, like you're dealing with the transportation of people, and it's an immense responsibility. So now it seems like no matter what, I've yet to see you lose your cool in your adult life. like I remember a few times when I was, crashing on your couch in 2019, and I was but in Lubbock. And I remember a few times where like we would, I don't know, like I wouldn't say you lost your cool by any means, but it was a bit different. And now it's like you were so mellow and like chill, and it's really funny to see like the drastic difference, and it makes sense why. Like you've got over 2,000 hours of flying through the sky.
I wouldn't even attribute it to that necessarily. I was a short-tempered kid growing up.
Fair enough.
Quick to snap, really, really easy to anger. Quick to speak, slow to listen. Kind of the opposite of what we're supposed to be.
100%.
And just through, I mean, when I actually became a Christian, when I actually surrendered my life to Christ, started following Him. That's probably where the biggest change happened.
Yeah. When was that?
Because
you said actually, and like because I get exactly what you mean, but just for people who would be listening, because we both went to Christian school.
We grew up in church. Our parents are Christian. They pointed us in the right direction, but
when did you actually surrender, and what was the milestone for that?
It was what year? May of 2017.
Okay.
Surprising.
Yeah.
I got really good at playing the game, really good at answering the answers.
Everybody's good at being a ficus in an orchard, brother.
Absolutely.
Everybody gets good at that.
I had it figured out.
Because there's a lot more ficus than real trees. And when, like, you look at everybody, I saw it at Liberty, I saw it at Coram Deo, I saw it in myself. Like, it's easy to play the game, and it's easy to sing loud and, be the person that's got their hands raised in church and all that. And then at the end of the day, what are your actions showing? And what are your innermost thoughts showing?
Or what are you doing when your door's shut?
Exactly.
When you're the only one in there.
Yeah. Which as a teenage boy, we know the answer,
nothing
but
good. Nothing good, that's for sure.
Nothing good at all. Lord, don't give me daughters, though.
But Bailey and I just got back from the Dominican Republic a couple days ago.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, we were out there on vacation.
Yeah.
We went to a resort down there for a honeymoon, and we'd been wanting to go back ever since. So we finally got to go back.
Fantastic.
And we were talking about kids on the
next step
in the future.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, we've obviously had these conversations before, but talking about like boys and girls, and I was like, I'll take 5 boys before I'd take 2 girls. And she's like, why? That sounds awful. And I was like, when you have a son, pardon my French.
No, go for it.
You only have to worry about one penis.
Correct.
When you have a daughter, you have to worry about
everybody else.
Billions.
That's so real, dude. Like,
so that's why.
And we both have sisters too. And that was something.
2 sisters.
Yeah, we're both in that boat. Like, so you're immediately defensive. And I've had that same conversation with Hope of like, what we expect, and we're still not on the same page on how many kids. I want 4, she wants 2. I think we meet in the middle at 3. We'll see what happens. But like I also feel significantly more qualified to raise a son than I do a daughter.
You want to maybe tell Blake 5:30 is a little bit early? I feel like we still got a lot to cover here.
Oh, we got a lot to cover. He'll be all right, though. We're going to go hit a really good... I mean, Blake's always late anyway.
You're right.
We could show up at 6. He may not be there.
That's true.
But if he gets mad at us, he'll be all right.
Fair.
I'll text him in a minute. But, yeah, we're going to go take Blake through a good arm day. Props to Blake, by the way. He stuck through every workout I put him through.
He's probably going to do better than me.
Hey, nah, you got it. It's just arms. Like, it's not going to be that bad. But... No, anyway.
Famous last words.
I love taking people through workouts because, intensity is a little bit different when you're, and especially now, like I work a desk job, so I don't really, get the chance to train like I want to train, but I still try to, but when it's people who like don't have the same background and aren't really accustomed to pushing themselves super hard, it's really fun. Like I took Grant Hudgens. He'll be mad that I said this because Grant's an athletic, strong dude. Yeah. And I took him through an arm workout where he almost passed out.
Yeah, I'm probably going to pass out here in a couple hours.
Well, I don't have what we did. The funny part was we were doing close grip bench press, but it's as many as you can possibly get in 1 minute. We only had I think we had less than a plate on. But you had to do 3 sets of as many as you can get in 1 minute.
Okay.
And he gets up, and this was after like an hour of, everything.
Just dying.
Yeah, and he gets up, and he's super pale, and he's just sitting there, and I'm like, all right, we're taking our rest between sets. He's like, hey, I'm going to pass out. Catch me. And he started to like lose his balance and stuff.
Oh,
that's the thing. Like Grant's the same way. Like I love the people who are like, I'm not going to quit.
Right.
You're not going to beat me. Like it's going to suck, but you ain't going to beat me.
Right.
But anyway, we got off track. We were talking about boys and girls. Like I feel a lot more I have a passion for becoming the best man I can be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not always executing that passion,
Sure.
and I want other people to strive for the same. And I would love the opportunity to raise a young man.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like
Be a big honor.
Exactly. And I had a wonderful father.
Mm-hmm.
You had a wonderful father. Like, both of us had the blessing of
Very
not only
blessed.
having one in the house, but just a really good one, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I've learned too much from him to not pass it on, to be able to pass it on to my own son.
Sure.
You know?
Understood.
Yeah. But I'm trying to remember how we got to that. So we were talking about,
Because
Lord, don't give me daughters, and I don't know.
we were talking about flying.
Oh yeah, no, became a Christian. So when you
Yes,
became a
yes.
Christian,
That's when my temperament most changed. You asked me when, May 2017.
and it's funny you say that because I do remember us. I want to say it was in 2018 or 2019. I'm not, and I won't bring up like what was going on between, but like you and I sat down at a breakfast place in Grapevine, and you had were confessing to me some struggles you had and this kind of realization of where you wanted to be versus where you're at. And I had in my head that was around that time. I think it was a little after.
Okay.
Right. But I think you're right. Like, a lot changed that day, or like around that time too. And kudos to you, by the way. Like we talked about earlier, it's the first step to recovering is acknowledging the problem and dealing with it. Right.
Sure.
And proud of you for that.
But by my own, not by my own doing.
No.
I didn't choose
Oh yeah.
to do any of this. It was so you mentioned Pine Cove in the introduction.
Yeah.
So I was blessed to work there for 3 summers. I worked at the Woods. It's one of the family camps out in East Texas.
Yeah.
And I got to grow up going there.
Mm-hmm.
Super awesome. Loved it every summer.
I love that place.
Made a lot of really awesome friends.
Mm-hmm.
2 of the guys that stood up at my wedding were Pine Cove guys that I got to work with, and one of them I grew up going to camp with.
Yeah. Caleb and Chris. Right?
Yep.
Chris, you grew up with Caleb, or
Other way around. I
Got
grew
it.
up with Caleb. Chris, we met working, but also one of my best friends.
Yeah.
So it was. So back to I had all the answers. I interviewed really well for the job. In-depth interview, and I was fortunate to get the job by the grace of God. I probably shouldn't have, given the life I was leading that year in college, but by the grace of God, He had a plan, and I got to go there. And so we, as a staff, we get there. Some people 2 weeks prior, some people a week prior to the first week of camp to go through the training and whatnot. And there was one of the nights we were there, just staff. We split off, guys and girls. Girls went somewhere to do girl stuff, and guys, we stayed back and played some games. And we were all sitting on the basketball court at camp, and our camp director shared his testimony and urged people, asked the Holy Spirit to prompt people to seek someone out and talk to them if they felt the need to do so.
Sure.
And I was very convicted. Conviction is fun, man. Dude. It's a good time.
Oh my gosh.
But I was very convicted, and so one of my former counselors who was still on staff was there. I was close with, and so I pulled him aside. I was like, "Hey, man, I gotta talk to you."
Yeah.
He's like, "What's up?" And I just dumped everything on him, man. Praise God for that guy being there, and it was so cool because I shared all this sin and poor choices and lifestyles and just bad stuff. And he looks at me in the eyes and he goes, "Justin, I forgive you, but more importantly, God has already forgiven you."
Yeah.
And it was literally in that moment, instantaneous physical relief.
Yeah.
Like, people say, "Oh, weight lifted off my shoulders," but like, no, actually,
You were standing taller.
I was relaxed. I was comfortable. I was reassured, and it was him. It was His forgiveness and the reminder of God's forgiveness. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
And it was in that moment that I was able to, because you hear the terminology of accepting Christ in the American church. There's nothing about accepting Christ in the Bible. No. It's I was looking it up earlier because I thought about it, and now we circle back around to it.
Sure.
And the Bible app wants me to rate it. Hold on. Okay, so Luke.
That's an instant 5 stars. You can't not give the Bible 5 stars.
So Luke 9:23 through 24. Then he said to all them, so Jesus talking, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me.
Yeah.
For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will save it.
Yeah.
And I read 25 also. What good is it what good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet lose or forfeit their very self? So that's I think it's pretty clear that there's no accepting of Jesus.
No, it's not, hey, now you're my buddy forever. And
no, it's a continuation, daily dying to yourself and choosing to follow Christ.
Yeah. I think a lot of, and I'm glad we're talking about this because I'm hoping that this does reach. I do have friends and people who may listen to this that aren't really believers or maybe stuck in a bit of a rut where you're wondering what to believe, because I think I'm going to use a word that sounds bad, but it's just a verb. Like, I think the American church is like really the bastardized Christianity.
100%.
Like,
very diluted.
Everybody treats Jesus now or thinks of Jesus as like Jiminy Cricket, just your conscience sitting on your shoulder telling you what you should and shouldn't do. That's not the case, right? Like, it not only is it a deep and like intimate relationship. When I say that, I mean like fully seen and fully known, right? Chandler, who I've brought up a few times, has said something that kind of goes in line to what you were saying of how laughable is it that you think you out sin the mercy and grace of Christ, right? Like, I'll say this to anybody who is listening, like, there is nothing you can do to separate yourself from the love of God. There is absolutely nothing you can do to make him love you less. He will let you live by your choices. He will let you live by the consequences of your actions. And if you want a life separate of him, he will give it to you. But there's nothing you can do to outrun his love and outrun his reach, which is twofold. Number one, it's extremely convicting,
right?
Because all of a sudden it's like your parents, right? Like, at one point you reach the point where you're not disobeying your parents because you're afraid of getting a spanking or something, right? I know nobody spanks their kids anymore, but you should, because they're brats. But at one point you stop. You start listening to your parents because it's good to listen to them, and you know that they love you and want what's best for you, right? And because you respect them and you love them. Same thing with Christ, and should be way to a further point, because, excuse me, but anyway, what I was trying to get to there was how watered down everything is now. This idea that, if you go to church every Sunday, you're saved.
Well, it's got to feel good.
Yeah, and that's, I'll be honest with you, Christianity, significant portion of the time, does not feel good. Like,
well, it feels great.
It feels great. Well, here's what I mean. Like, if from the outside looking in, it does not feel good, because it's the people you look at that are making sacrifices. It's
saying no to a lot of worldly good things.
Absolutely. And a lot of them, like, I can't help but think of like Job, right?
Yeah.
Or the disciples who all died a miserable, horrible death.
Well, they also gave up literally everything. Brought nothing with them and followed some dude that said he was the Son of God.
Yeah. They were right.
Yeah,
that's what's awesome.
Hats off to them for believing it and trusting it.
Dude, you hit the lottery there. You were absolutely correct, and that was a good bet. But anyway, I'm trying to remember exactly how we get there, because I do this a lot. We'll go off on these tangents.
No, it's good. It's all good conversation.
Yeah, but no, I mean.
But I was talking about when I truly became a follower of Christ.
Yeah. I think there's a perception of Christians, especially Christians like who started out like we did, right? Because we went to private Christian school. The majority of I started in second grade.
Started in kindergarten.
Yeah, kindergarten. So like basically our entire upbringing. Went to private Christian school, went to church every Sunday, went to youth camps and all that, the Pine Coves.
Right.
And number one, I think it gives off this identity of this person has no idea what the real world is like, which is, to be fair, true. Like, we were in a bit of a bubble, a
100%.
little bit.
I mean, even living in 21st century America is wild as it's gotten. It's still a bubble.
And Flower Mound at that. Like, Flower Mound.
It is
I don't think anybody's been robbed in Flower Mound in like 20 years. I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems like it's a pretty good place to live.
Pretty safe area.
Yeah. But, that being said, it's really, you think of the private school kid as like, oh yeah, he loves God, but does he really love God? He's putting up this show. He's putting up what he knows. He's the ficus in the orchard, right? And to be fair, I'm kind of that mindset too. I think it takes genuinely having the choice to follow God, to
Yeah.
be a follower of Him.
Yeah.
Because you get to college and you get in the real world, and out there, and you see
a lot of other choices.
there's a lot of other choices, and
No
there's
one's waking you up to go to church on Sunday. No
No.
one's
yeah, and
prompting you to go to youth group. No one's prompting you to get community.
exactly, and you are subject to your own devices,
Yeah.
and you will hit a point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a matter of if; it's a matter of when you realize I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And I have zero direction, and I'm miserable. And the funny thing is, as a Christian, you're going to keep hitting that point.
Mm-hmm.
I know nobody. There's not one person I know who is serious about their faith that has been like, dude, I gave my life to Christ. My life's been sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
Or has never had struggles with their faith,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's kind of the funny thing now. It's like everybody wants you to prove Jesus is real, prove this, prove that, prove, Christ, prove God. And it's like, well, that's the funny thing. One of the pillars of our religion is faith, right? And faith is the lack of proof, right?
Right.
We can prove he lived here, or he lived on earth. We can prove the records say that he performed miracles. We can prove he died. We can't prove, we can prove that people saw him after he died, right? But I can't tell you that, hey, guess what? I can factually prove to you that Jesus is the Son of God. There is a creator of this world, and there is, and this was all intelligently designed to his plan.
Right.
I can't prove it on paper to you, but gosh, do I believe it? And gosh, is there a lot of evidence that I would say suggests that we are absolutely in the, all of that is true.
Right.
Right.
But it's also cool because it's not our responsibility to prove God's existence to people. Right? There's nothing that calls us to prove it to people, because there's nothing I can say or nothing you can say that will prove to a non-believer that God exists. He is real.
No.
And he wants a
has to
personal
work in
relationship with you.
people's
Yeah,
lives.
I mean, it's our job to plant seeds.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, it's not
Yeah.
up to us,
Yeah.
which is super cool.
Yeah.
Because if it was up to me, I'd be doing a real bad job.
Yeah. I'd like to.
I can't make you believe what you don't want to believe or,
Yeah.
or what doesn't make sense
Not
to
to
you.
mention, I am I'm actually reading through the New Testament again. I'm trying to read about 5 chapters a day and just tackle it, because I got to thinking the other day, when's the last time I fully read through the Bible cover to cover? It's been a while, right? It's been a long while. Similar to what you revealed, I'm going to confess something too. There was definitely a point in my life where I kind of had to, I'm not going to say come back to Christ, but really reevaluate where my priorities were, because I was the stereotypical private school kid who
Right.
I got to college and I ain't gonna drink, I ain't gonna do drugs, I ain't having sex, right? I wanted to wait and abstain from these things, but I was also a prude about it, right?
Yeah.
I was a prick. I'll just be totally honest with you.
It was a point of superiority almost.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a superiority complex of dude, I'm waiting. I don't need that. I have Jesus.
Right.
And it's all right, cool. What am I doing there? All I am doing is alienating people. Oh, cool. That guy's a jerk. I'm definitely not going to.
I don't want to hang out with this guy. He's mean.
And I definitely ain't listening to anything he has to say.
Yeah.
And right around the time, funny enough, it was around early 2019, and then it happened again later. But I kind of had this moment where I got my heart broke. I was dealing through some stuff, and
I
just
remember.
kind of.
I was there for it.
I know, and I appreciate you. I'm not trying to throw dirt on anybody, but
No, not at all.
it's just I got
It's a
my
hard
heart
time in
broke,
your
and I
life.
was in a rough spot, and really realizing what's important to me, what's not, and I also realized for one of the first times in my life that hey man, it ain't all good,
Right.
Life's hard.
Yeah.
Life's really hard, and there's a lot of difficult stuff going on. I was going through football was hard. I was going through school's hard, but I had lived a fairly privileged life, and I'll be the first to admit it. And you finally face some emotional, spiritual adversity, and you're like, oh, I see how blessed I am,
Right.
and I've been in my environment and everything. And I also realize how easy it is to fall into stuff that's maybe not that good for you, but how on earth, who am I to judge you for your stuff? Because the stuff I'm struggling with is just as bad.
Right.
It may look differently, but not having sex versus watching porn, or having sex, before premarital sex versus not doing so but watching pornography, exact same sin.
Yeah.
Exact same, right? And I was like, I just struggle with it, but I'm giving it up, whatever. I'm over here judging, throwing
Right.
stones,
Right.
and the only reason I share that is I'm 90% sure every single man in their life has had some some kind of struggle with that sin in particular.
And I think the 10% would encompass the people who have no access to internet or gas stations that have magazines
or anything like that.
or anything along those lines.
Oh yeah, because that is something I can proudly say I've kicked, and I'm proud of that.
Good.
But especially going into being married, like it's extremely important. But anyway, like,
but I wouldn't say you kicked it. It's just like alcohol.
no, it's
once you're an addict,
it's in remission.
You're always an addict. You're just an addict in recovery.
Yeah, for sure.
It's no different.
And it's a daily struggle. Like
100%. It's a daily fight.
Exactly.
The one day you choose to not fight, it's the one day you slip up.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The one day, 100%. And so something I have a counselor I've talked to that something he said too was really cool. Not like this. I have a counselor just in the church, but something he said was cool. Was like, hey, like similar to what you said, when you think you got it kicked, you don't.
Right.
But also don't let your one lapse in judgment and mistake ruin all the progress you can.
Sure.
You know, which I think is cool too. It's the same thing with an addict with a drink. It's like, hey, look, you messed up today, but that doesn't take away all of the progress you made, so there's no need to fall back from there. Right.
So don't mess up tomorrow.
Exactly. Like, don't like I had a coach in college who, you know, I mean, he's a bit of a jerk, and I've mentioned him in this before, but he did give me one really good piece of advice in college, which is like, you know, he said, hey, and I'm trying not to cuss, but he said, F up on something different today. Don't F up on the same thing you did yesterday. But all that ties into like what we were talking about with, you know, the modern day church, the modern day American Christian. Like, you know, I had that moment of clarity where it's like, dude, all these people that I've been secretly, verbally persecuting, right?
Yeah.
Out of superiority for my own choices and beliefs. How many people did I really like turn away from the idea of coming to Christ and experiencing all of this just grace and mercy and love and being fully known and fully loved for who you are, not for what you do, but knowing that no matter all the good you do, it will not change the love of God has for you, and all the bad you do, it will not change the love.
It reminds me, I actually had a really cool conversation with another pilot last week at one of the hotels on an overnight. It doesn't work for my company, it works for a different company. Sure. But me and my captain were hanging out by the pool, just chilling, eating dinner.
Vibing.
And this other guy came out. I mean, you can, as a pilot, I can look at a person and tell you if they're a pilot within 30 seconds of talking to them. It's just, you just know.
Yeah.
And so he saw us. He's like, you guys fly? And we're like, yeah. He's like, me too. Cool. Turns out my captain, this guy, know each other from like 8 years ago when my captain was in the military in Guam, and this guy was living in Guam, just coincidentally. So that was really funny. Yeah. But this guy was really cool. A lot of life experience. Lived all over the country, or all over the world, rather. Really interesting. And we got talking about, he kept saying the word religion. And I was like, no.
I don't like that either.
I'm not religious.
I know I'd mentioned
not religious. Yeah. And so he's like, well, he's like, what religion do you have? Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm a Christian. Yeah. He's like, well, like, what does that mean? Like, are you religious? And I was like, no, I'm not religious. He's like, but you're a Christian. I was like, yeah. So how does that make sense? I was like, I have a faith. Yeah. And I obviously walked him through everything I believe, and he was like, oh, that's really, really neat. I've never heard anyone.
That's awkward.
I've never really heard anyone say it like that before. I was like, well, it's just religion's an easier word to say because everyone knows what being religious means. Yeah. But it's not what I am. No. And he was like, he's like, I don't have any religion or faith or anything like that. He's like, I believe that there's probably a creator, but beyond that, I don't really know. And I was like, I understand. Yeah. It's a pretty big leap of faith. Yeah. To be a Christian. Yeah. But so is every other
I think it takes more faith to believe this was all by accident.
Oh, 100%. Couldn't agree more. But he was talking to me, he's like, but the hang up that I have with different religions and Christians in particular, because he was real adamant on trying to figure out what denomination I went with. I don't really associate with a denomination because I think denominations are a product of man, and I think that there needs to be
splitting hairs.
It's divisive.
Exactly. That's all it is.
Yeah, and I've seen people use good Christian topics and seen division with it, so I try to avoid it. Yeah, agreed. But he was like, the problem I have is when people that are religious, mostly Christians, will come out and like start condemning people's lives. And I was like, well, if you're encountering someone that says they're a Christian and they're condemning your lifestyle just as a stranger, then you probably shouldn't talk to them, and you should probably question if they're actually a believer.
I agree.
Follower of Christ.
I agree.
And he's like, well, why? That's kind of wild. And I was like, well, you see, there's a story from Jesus' life. There's a prostitute, and the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the religious leaders of the time were going to stone her for being a prostitute.
Yeah.
And Jesus stepped in, being the only perfect person to ever exist. Yeah. Steps in and says, "He who is without blame can throw the first stone."
Yeah.
I was like, so it's not my job to continue your lifestyle. Maybe if at some point we became really close friends,
I got to call you on your stuff.
I'm going to call you out on your sin.
Yeah.
But that's my job as a believer to another believer.
Yeah.
Right now, me as a follower of Christ and you as a not follower of Christ, my only job is to show you the love of Christ.
I really like how you put that, by the way.
And I'll probably never see the guy again, probably never talk to him again. But I could tell
I hope you see him again, just up yonder.
Yeah, it would be cool. It'd be really cool. But you never know. But that's, again, we talked about already. It's not my job to make him become a Christian, make him become a follower of Christ. But it was a really neat conversation. I could see some wheels spinning, him thinking, and I hope that God was able to use me and speak through me to give him a different perspective.
Absolutely. And I like that, because one of the things I was going to bring up after that is how hard it is now to draw the line between, accepting for where you're at and also pushing you towards where you need to be.
Sure.
Right. So like this idea in the church now of like, it seems like just a general idea in 2024 is that you can't call anybody on their nonsense anymore. Right. You have to accept them for who they are, which is not a biblical principle at all. And that's a secular idea, but also it is adopted a lot in the church of, hey, you struggle with this. Why are you calling me on this? It's like, yeah, you're right. I need to be better about this too. So call me on this. Like there needs to be a lot more accountability in the world, especially in the church, than there is.
I agree.
But I really like how you put it, though.
But within the church, within believer to believer, it's a whole lot different.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Because if you're living a way that's not pleasing to God, if it's coming from me, it's not because I hate you or I think you're stupid or I'm condemning you. It's because I know that you are called to be better, and I know that you're called to be better.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But if you look at Jesus' life, any of his encounters with sinners, what did he open with?
I'm trying to remember. Be not afraid.
No, that was angels.
What's the exact thing he opened with?
Not necessarily specific words, but anything he opened with, it was just love.
Oh, absolutely, I agree.
And forgiveness.
I thought there was an actual.
Not a phrase. But don't be afraid was very Old Testament, or
yes,
not Old Testament, but angels appearing.
Angel, which is fair. That biblical accurate angel is a scary thing.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
But no, you're
but
absolutely
it was always opened with love and grace.
Yeah.
And I think as Christ followers, we're called to follow the model that he left for us.
Yeah.
And if our first move when we encounter someone who is not a believer, is living a lifestyle that we think is morally wrong, if our first move is anything but love and grace, then we're wrong.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, I have my own beliefs and my own convictions, and I hold to them strong.
Yeah.
But if my beliefs and my convictions stop me from being kind and loving and gracious to someone else, then am I a Christian?
I agree.
I would argue no.
I agree. And it is interesting because I run into this with a lot of people too. Like one thing I will say I'm very proud of is I came out of college with friends that were hardcore Republican, hardcore liberal, gay, straight, all matters of that spectrum, all different races, different religions. I have Muslim friends, I have atheist friends, and I can honestly say that I've had some really good conversations with people that open their eyes to, because I'm not the model Christian. Let me say that right now. Like if you looked at
Fortunately, it's not your job to be the model Christian.
Thank God, because I'd be messing up. I shouldn't be the poster boy for Christianity by any
I'd say
means.
Christianity would be kind of whack if you're the poster boy.
Yeah, no joke, man. And we're drifting a little more into the cult.
I say that with love.
No, and I appreciate the honesty because you're exactly right. But
the same goes for me.
I was gonna say the only person I can think of that's like you're doing pretty good is like Justin Peltier. Like, you're doing good, buddy. I'm proud of you. No, I'm kidding. We all fall short.
Absolutely.
But I think we need to embrace that more. Like I think too many people look at Christians like maybe our grandparents, like that were the Methodist, the Methodists, like put together, 3-piece suit every Sunday and never going to tell anybody when you're struggling, but prayer request for this person,
sure.
they're whatever. Like I think so much of being a Christian is and this is something I hesitate to say I struggle with this. Hope says I struggle with empathy because I have a hard time putting myself in the shoes of somebody else sometimes.
Empathy is extremely hard for me.
Yeah. But also I think empathy is meeting somebody where they're at.
Yeah.
And like,
which is hard to do.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, you and I have encountered a situation where it's like, look, I can't understand what you're going through, but I'll be there with you through it. And I think that's what being a Christian is, man. It's like, look, you got not just that's not, you know, that's boiling it way too down. But
Right.
so much of being a Christian when it comes to ministering to the outside world of people who aren't receiving the love of God because they don't have a relationship with him, so much of it boils down to, look, I'm going to meet you where you're at and be with you where you're at and do my best to be a display of the love of Christ and to you, right?
Like, I mean, you look. I keep going back, but you look at Jesus' life.
Yeah.
He went. Yeah, people followed him. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
Crowds came to him, but he went to people.
Oh my gosh.
Like when the Roman soldier came to him, he's like, "My daughter's dying. I need you."
Yeah.
He took his time.
Yeah.
And she died, but he did it for a purpose to show his power. But he went to her, and he went to where she was at, and he went to the blanking on the name, but we went to the well.
Yep, woman at the well.
And he met with the woman.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we're not modeling Jesus' life, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And it's just love and grace.
Yeah.
That's the starting point. And from there, then you can have the hard conversations. But
Of
if you
course.
if you start with hard, then it just turns people off.
Oh, exactly. You're exactly right. It's actually funny because you've heard me say before, like, oh, I can't wait to buy some land and just go off the grid and not.
Well, the
talk to
plan is
anybody.
we're gonna buy a piece of.
Get us a
Well, you
ranch.
didn't hold up your end of the bargain. You get to the NFL.
I tried, man. I sure did try.
You tried a lot harder than I did. I'll say that. You also had a little bit more working for you than I did.
Fair enough.
But
Just
yeah, no,
a
I
few
did.
more
I did,
inches.
yes.
But no, yeah, I don't say it. But anyway, yeah, but like something I had talked to, because that's something I had a conversation with you and other people, and I had some conviction about it because I was like, what if I were to do that? And I bought my land and I just lived off the grid and never really spoke to anybody again other than the people I wanted to talk
It'd
to.
be peaceful.
It'd be peaceful, but how many people am I reaching? How many actual, because the disciples didn't do that. They went to where they met
They were not
nothing but
wanted.
people that they did not like, probably, right? Like, loved them, but that would be like me making my way, and I'm obviously a pretty conservative person, but like making my way over to like a route, like if I'm just comparing it to America, like a rally for something I don't agree with, and just, like just saying, being me, like you're with people that are the opposite of you and that are probably not looking on you too fondly. Like,
right, but there's also I understand I understand the comparison you're trying to make.
Yeah, I'm having a hard
but I
time
don't
connecting
think
it.
going to a political rally and being a missionary are exactly the same.
Not at all, by any means. I just am looking at it like you're
going somewhere where you're not desired.
100%. Honestly, the equivalent would be me doing the same thing and going into a place where you are in danger of dying because of what you believe in.
Sure.
But it's just interesting. Like we've been all over the place on this. I'm gonna get us back on track a little bit because we got on this big tangent.
But you finish up and then you mentioned empathy. Yeah. And it's actually going to circle back to when you asked me what I've learned the most from being married.
Yeah.
So finish.
Please.
And then are you done?
Okay. I think by that I am through. Wow, we've went all over the place in this. No, because
it's good. It's good.
We also went to.
It all ties together somehow. I just forget how.
And I'm by no means done. I was going to ask you some other things, but I love that we can actually talk about Christ because there, with a few of the people I've had these with so far, I've been probably a little more well-versed in Christianity, in the Bible and stuff. Like I've been a Christian longer, right? So I've had to hold the majority of the conversation when it came to talking about biblical topics and stuff. And it's really cool that kind of flip it. Like I have aspiration at one point to do what I call the theology hour, where we take a topic and discuss, hey, this is what I get from this. This is the world's view of it. This is your view of it. How is this meant? Let's understand it better. And I'd love to have you on for that too. But circling back around, because this is about you. You were talking about, the moment where you really came to Christ again. And
Not again.
Not again, but like truly
the first time.
Right. Truly the first time. And how much that's changed your life since then. Can only imagine that is significant, because you were dating Bailey before that happened. Oh, no. That was 2017.
Yeah, I was not dating.
So you met Bailey shortly after that.
I met Bailey a couple months after that.
Gotcha. Let's talk about Bailey a little bit. I want to hear about Bailey. What were your thoughts when you first saw your future bride?
So Bailey she's a year younger than me in school. Mm-hmm. So she's in your
wonderful person, by the way.
Super sweet.
Yeah. And I want you to know, like, I love your wife. Like, she is a wonderful person. I haven't gotten the chance to spend a ton of time with her, but I'm very happy that y'all found each other.
Thank you. So we met in July of 2017.
Yeah.
So she was working at Pine Cove Woods. I was too. And we had met kind of just in passing a couple of times. And so we were both working second half of the summer. So it was week 6 through week 11.
Yeah.
So camp starts on a Sunday in the early evening, late afternoon, and ends mid-morning on Saturday.
Yep.
So families leave on the Saturday, and then as a staff, we go in and just purge, clean everything as fast as we can, because the quicker we get done cleaning is the more off time we have.
Yeah, just so there's little break.
There's that extra 30 minutes is a big motivating factor.
Yeah.
So we get assigned to cleaning teams, and you get assigned cabins to go to. So Bailey and I got assigned to go to the same section of cabins to be on the same cleaning crew. Yeah. And I mean, it was 4 of us, and you just get talking because you're cleaning for a couple hours, and you just get to know people and get talking. And so we were talking, and just found her intriguing, found her beautiful,
of course,
to begin with. And I was
Who wouldn't? I'm with you.
in a interesting relationship situation at the time.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into that right now.
We will not. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Exes will not be mentioned on this podcast.
No, but let the record show that we did not date until I was single.
My favorite ex is the one that gave you the dog. That's my favorite tweet.
My
also, I was such
sweet
a jerk.
little hope. Yeah. That's my dog, by the way. She's cute.
I'm not calling my fiance a dog because my fiance's name is also Hope. But anyway, go ahead.
That is funny. So I mean, immediate attraction. I found her interesting. And every Saturday we were cleaning together. And then the week 9 of camp, we were on work crew together. So work crew looks like a lot of behind the scenes stuff, setting up for meals, serving meals, cleaning dishes, which sounds exhausting, but it's your 1 week to kind of dial it back. Yeah. As far as energy exertion goes. So it's kind of a rest week. Yeah. In a sense. Because you're not up front with campers talking all the time, high energy. It's a little more chill. Yeah. And so we were on the work crew together that week, and it was just a lot of time to talk and do dishes. And the thing that was most striking to me about her was that Sunday night of week 9, I was sitting at this one sink, and we had gravy boats with the dinner. Yeah. And so I was sitting there, and I was spraying off the gravy boats, and then they would get sent through what we called the Dragon, which is just an industrial dishwasher. Yeah. And so she's a year younger than me. She was almost 18. Okay. We didn't start dating till after she was 18. Good. But the record showed that too. There's nothing illegal.
Put on your best Bill Clinton voice. You can't. I'm sorry, that's bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's not good. I'll cut it.
And so I was doing that, and I thought I was doing an adequate job. Yeah. Apparently, I was not.
According to
Bailey.
Yeah.
And so I spray it all off. I pass it down the line to get pushed through the Dragon. Yeah. And we have different opinions on the Dragon. I think it can handle a lot more than she thought it could. So I wasn't like...
Sounds a lot like me and Hope right now, bro.
I wasn't like super detail oriented with making sure every bit of gravy residue was out of these before they got sent through. Because I was going through this massive dishwasher on a conveyor with hot water and soap and
water.
There
were like 6 pressure washers.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
That thing. We didn't need to worry about this too.
And so like, it'll be fine. Yeah. And then she brings the tray over, and she sets it back down in front of me. And she's like, "This isn't good enough. Clean it more." And I was 19-year-old, had it all figured out. Yeah. Just finished my freshman year of college. I was basically a man.
Yeah.
And
you were a man. What do you mean, basically?
And my sinfulness wanted to be like, no, screw you, send it through, it'll be fine. Yeah. But thankfully, the Spirit came over me and gave me a heart of humility in that moment. And I said, okay, I'm sorry. I'll fix it. And then after that, I made sure I got every freaking gravy boat shiny before it got sent through.
Perfect.
And so it was that moment where I was like, there's something to this girl.
Yeah.
I like that.
She
I
called
like
me
that
on
boldness.
my crap. Yeah.
I like that. That's something I want.
For sure.
And so we spent the rest of the week hanging out, talking, cleaning dishes. And then the Tuesday and Thursday night is a night where the parents are separate from the kids. The parents have a date night and a banquet night. Mm-hmm. And on the banquet night, they would play like country music and people would two-step and whatnot. Yeah. And so as a staff, once we got done with serving and whatnot, it was our job to kind of start the dancing, give people courage to get up and do it. And at this point, I was kind of interested, kind of flirting a little bit here and there. Sure. And so I asked her to dance, and we danced, and it was a good time. And then the weekends, and we were, so Saturday from like noon to Sunday at like 1 p.m. we're off. Mm-hmm. So in that time, you got to eat, rest, do laundry. Yep. And so we were talking, I was like, oh, you know, like do laundry and get dinner. It's like super basic Pine Cove.
But I mean, that's all your options.
Right. It was like, this is practical, but also like,
it's not like you can go to the bowling alley.
No,
like
not
that.
And so we went, and it was a good time. Yeah. Really good time. And then the following day, maybe the day after, she turned 18. Okay. So we didn't go on a date before. No, we were just two friends hanging out.
Absolutely.
It was cordial. And so then
You're killing me with this thing. You're like 1 year older than her, or like
yeah. Maybe.
I guess at the time technically like 1.5, but like it's just making me laugh how careful you're being on the
year
verge.
And some change.
Yeah,
older.
Sorry, dude. Hey, Hope's a cougar, man. Hey, 3 years older than me.
I get it, but no, we. So then we were. I get back, and I was like brushing my teeth or something, and there was another guy in the staff cabin that was also getting ready for bed, and he's a couple of years older than me, really wise guy. I liked him a lot, and he was like, so what'd you do? Just casual conversation. Like, oh, I went to dinner with a girl. He's like, oh, who? I told him who. He's like, really? Yeah, I thought there was something going on there. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, man, everyone knows.
I didn't even know till just now.
I was like, well, I mean, okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I was like, well, here's my situation. Kind of explained what I was going through previously, and you know, I was like, what do you think I should do? How should I go about this? He's like, I think you should be brutally honest. Yeah. Tell her exactly what your intentions are. Okay. I was like, all right. Yeah. I'm a pretty bold guy. I'm not afraid to say what I'm thinking, say the truth. Not at all. And so there was the following Monday night, there was a big camp-wide game going on, and it sounds super weird, but there's a dock with a little pond, and the station she was working, somehow water balloons ended up into the lake, so she was going around, or she was about to hop in a canoe by herself and go do it. And I was like, you need help with that? And so I hop in.
That's that Christian camp radius right there.
I was super, really
help you?
Entirely selfless intentions. Yeah. I just wanted to help clean.
Yeah.
But we were talking, and I was like, so it was a lot of fun hanging out with you on Saturday. And she's like, yeah, I thought so too. And then I was like, well, was it like a date? And she's like, she didn't even look back at me. She's sitting there and she's like, I don't know. It's up for you to decide. I was like, oh, all right. I think I know what the right answer is. And I was like, well, I'm gonna say it was a date then. Yep. And she's like, cool, me too. And I was like, well, do you want to go on another date next Saturday? And so we did. And then after camp, made it official.
Nice.
Dated for 18. We broke up very briefly in 2019. Really rough time in my life.
I get it.
Story for another day.
Yeah. That's not for a podcast.
But we broke up. God intervened in my life again.
Yep.
Did a lot of work in my heart, a lot of restoration, a lot of healing. And then we ended up getting back together. A couple years later, got married.
Yep.
But going back to empathy,
yep,
and asking what I have learned most from being married. By nature, I'm a fixer. I know that you are too.
Yeah, big time.
And that is great in a lot of instances, but also terrible.
Detrimental.
In a lot of instances.
Of ways, yeah.
Because when I'm presented with a problem, I'm like, well, obviously, let's take a logical route and figure out the solution to this problem. But very early on in our marriage, Bailey was quick to call me on not being empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
Because apparently, there's times when women just want to talk about problems and not find solutions.
No, really?
I was unaware of this.
This was news to me.
It was all news to me. And so then it became a conscious effort to, like, when presented with a problem, I initially, when we first started working on this, I would ask, do you want me to listen or do you want to find a solution?
Yeah.
Just being straight up. Like, because right now I do not know what you need from me.
Right.
And more often than not, it was, I just want you to listen.
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll listen. I won't say anything.
For sure.
And then when she was ready, we'd talk about finding solutions.
Yeah.
So that is probably the biggest area that I've seen growth in, was been empathy, because it's not natural to me.
Same here. And I see the world a lot more black and white.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Yeah,
I do too.
like,
right, wrong. It's easy.
Yeah.
Straightforward.
And the funny thing is, what's usually tied with that is, you have to be able to say, yeah, I did right or I did wrong. So it's also a lot easier for me to, like, own up to my, to, like, where I'm doing poorly than otherwise.
Sure.
But which is kind of funny because that's played into how Hope and I have to, like, solve conflicts and arguments. Like, if I'm wrong and I figure out I'm wrong, right?
Quick to apologize.
It's, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Will you forgive
So
me?
I screwed up. I'm very clearly I screwed up in this situation.
So I always think that's how, because growing up, like, we had siblings too.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it was always, make up, you're good,
Move
go
on,
about your
live
day,
life.
move on. Yeah. That's also not how marriage is.
No.
I'm learning, and I'm not married yet, but that's not how engagement is. And
No.
it's something that, you have to address and let everybody come to terms and figure out what they want to figure out on their own time too. But yeah, I struggle with the empathy thing. Like, and I'm also, something I'm learning is to be less vocal and verbal on my disagreements with how situations are handled, where it's like, where I think, hey, this is a clear cut. Hey, you need to do this. This is the solution to this. Why aren't you doing it? If you know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Hope's like, it's not that simple. I was like, it is that simple.
To me, it is.
It
Why
makes
is it not?
perfect sense. Like, hey, if this is like,
I
somebody
get it.
hits my car, I'm going to get pictures and call insurance and the authorities.
Right.
But anyway, and that's just a metaphor.
Unfortunately, not that easy.
No. But yeah, that actually does tie into, I have a few rapid fire questions. So we'll go through them really
All right,
quickly.
hit me with it.
Because we do owe Blake a workout.
Well, he's on his way here.
Oh, he's coming here?
I told him to come here.
Sweet. All right, that actually makes it better. So, number one, what advice would you give me going into my wedding and then that first year of marriage? I think we've talked about a lot of topics, but what's like a piece of advice that rolls off the tongue?
Patience and forgiveness.
Okay.
Because we talked about earlier, there's going to be a lot of things that she does that frustrates you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're quick to snap on everything, you're in for a world of hurt.
Right.
So be patient.
Yep.
Because she's done things her way for a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
You've done things your way for a lifetime.
Yep.
Now you got to figure out how to do it y'all's way for a lifetime.
I like that.
So patience and forgiveness.
I like that a lot. If you had to pick between flight school, being a Pine Cove counselor, athletics, college, what was the experience that has most shaped you into who you are today? If you had to pick, like, the most significant of the four.
Yeah, being a Pine Cove counselor, no question asked.
Good.
My only regret in life is not working at Pine Cove for a fourth summer.
Okay. I respect that.
Yeah.
Fair enough. If you were to live your life, let's say you die an old man, right?
Okay.
And you're reading, what? People are showing up at your funeral, giving eulogies, all that. What would you want to be remembered by? How would you want to be remembered? What kind of man? Describe it to me.
Bold in what I believe and loyal to the people I love.
I like that. I'd also say extremely hardworking, by the way. You're an extremely hardworking person. If
Thank
I'm
you.
adding to
Thank you.
all the things, I would give a 20-minute eulogy on how great you were and tell all these great stories, but save that for another time. I stole this one from a podcast about a rodeo guy.
Okay.
It's just you in a 10x10 cell.
Oh, gosh.
Nothing but your underwear, right?
Okay.
And I only say that to say, like, you only got clothes on your
nothing.
back. Yeah.
I got nothing.
What's the largest animal you think you could take barehanded?
So Blake and I actually had this conversation last week.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
We hung out.
Thanks for the invite, by the way.
You were in Colorado.
Okay, fair enough. Oh, wait, I remember that.
Yeah, you were
My
in
bad.
Colorado.
My bad.
That's why you were not invited.
Yeah.
He actually just texted us.
Is he here?
I'm freaking lost. Never mind. Figures. So we had this discussion last week, and he's convinced he could take at first he was like, I could take on a lion. I was like, no, you could not. No. Absolutely not. And then he was like,
a lion cub?
No, he was talking full-grown African lion. I was like, absolutely not. Try again.
No.
And then he was.
For the record, by the way, Blake is like 5% body fat,
50, 40?
Maybe.
He's like 6 foot.
I love Blake. No combat training, no experience.
But so he was going with big animals, and then he was like, well, maybe like a leopard. And I was like, no. Have you seen the videos of leopards? They kill the deer and then they grab it and then bring it up the tree. And
how about when they drag a crocodile out of the river? Yeah, no, that's not happening either.
And then he was like, well, maybe a bear. And I was like, no.
It just kept going up.
No, because think about even so you got a small black bear that's 5 feet tall.
Yeah.
It's still pound for pound.
You're not even close. The crap out of him too. It's 3 of him, 4 of him.
But for me, a black bear, small end, you're 5 feet tall.
It's messing us up.
200 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's shorter than me, and it's about the same weight as I am.
Yeah.
But it's got claws. It's got teeth. It can probably run faster than me.
No, it's not probably. Justin.
It can run faster.
It can run faster.
And it can climb.
Yeah.
There is no getting away from it.
You can give both of us a bike, and we ain't getting away on that thing.
And so he was throwing out these big animals, and I was like, no.
You're not taking that either. What are you talking about?
And I was like, well, okay, so realistically speaking,
yeah,
I bet the biggest animal I could take would be in a 10 by 10 room. That's tricky.
I'm saying, dude, it's close quarters, dude. You got to get up in there.
So, I mean, it would probably maybe a bobcat.
Oh, yeah.
Because cats choke out easy.
Do they?
They do.
Knowing that.
One of my good friends from flying is he grew up in Montana on a big ranch, and he was a trapper, and I learned that from him. Cats choke out easy.
Okay.
Dogs do not.
Okay, so wolf's off the table.
Yeah.
We're gonna go. All right. Bobcat.
So I think like a bobcat or something like that would probably be my go-to.
That's not a bad one. Hey Blake, now that you've walked in, come here real quick.
I just exposed you to thinking you could take.
What is the largest animal you think you could take with your bare hands? No. Come talking to the mic here. He just walked in. What's the largest? He's gonna be on the next episode.
I'd say a German Shepherd. Probably.
Well,
that's a far cry from what you were
That's because I talked him out of everything last week.
No. The question was, you guys were.
Who's you guys? It's him.
No, it was a battle between a brown bear and what was the other animal?
No. You asked me what is the largest animal you thought I could take in a fight, and then you turned around and said lion initially.
No, I was
You're
saying
wild
I was
for
saying
that,
I'd rather, if I had to choose between a lion and a brown bear, I would choose a lion.
That's reasonable.
And he was saying a brown bear, and I'm like, no way, you would be dead in an instant.
Well, that's kind of you're dying either way. Do you want it dragged out, or do you want?
So apparently I misremembered the conversation.
That is a good answer. My other question is a touch inappropriate given the conversation we would have. One of the questions I've asked to a lot of people is what is the most amount of alcohol you've consumed in one sitting? But if you don't want to answer that, that's okay too.
Gosh, I don't know.
That's all good.
I don't know. I couldn't even
quantify it.
I couldn't quantify it.
That's totally fair.
I'm not sitting out here measuring ounces, so I have no idea.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
But just in sheer volume from a thought would have been the 2017 Super Bowl when the Patriots came back from being down 27-3 or whatever it was.
Yep.
I was gone by the end of the first quarter, so I don't know.
That's fair.
So
okay.
And then there was a lot after that too. That was a wild night.
Last question, or it's more of a statement. Tell me something. Tell me a good piece of news. Something good that somebody can hang on to for the week.
Good piece of news.
Could be news. Could be just the good, the truth. Just something good.
That's a tough question. There's not a lot of good going on right now.
I mean, it doesn't have to be news. It could be, hey, look, you know, Christ is Lord. Everything's all good. Would you mind, bro? Should have locked the door. Just make him wait out there.
I'm surprised he got in the gate.
I know.
Gosh, good news. Well, I mean, the good news.
Yeah.
That we talked about
We talked about Christ
faith
a lot.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to
It
think
could be
of
something good in your life. It could be anything.
I mean, good
just
news.
something good to end on.
You got good friends. You keep good company. You'd be all right.
Amen. I like to end these out in a prayer. Blake, you want to join? That's half of what you weigh right there. Let me pray for us. Dear Father, we just thank you for, as Justin said, great friends who can come together and congregate and fellowship and have just great times and memories. Lord, we just ask that as we go our separate ways today and onward from here, that you will work through us, bless others through us, and bless us. And no matter what the future holds, let us just know that no matter what, you are in charge, and you are going to ultimately fashion a plan together that is for our overall good. We love you. I thank you for everyone in this room. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Number 4. There you go.
Good deal.